being able to travel down on a Thursday after we had the midweek off, we felt like our guys were rested and prepared to perform at a high level. Got a great start out of Griffin Kern. He went 6 innings, gave up 2 runs. We had another fantastic start by Jack Kartsonis. He went 7 innings and gave up no runs. Our offense was relentless. I think we had 29 runs over 3 games and played really clean baseball. Some of the best defense that we had played all season. And so I was really happy with how we played the game. I think Friday's game caught our guys a little bit off guard. It was sunny, it was in the 80s, and it was really humid. And so at the end of that game, there were certainly some guys that were drained. So they had to do a great job working to hydrate and to recover. And we had prepared them for it, but there's nothing you can say or do too much. It's just a much different, environment there. But really liked what Kartsonis brought to our team on Sunday. I think it was our longest start of the year out of anybody, longest appearance out of any pitcher on the year. And so for him to do that in his first opportunity to start was really special. We had some things go on. Sam White obviously came back to the lineup, so that was incredible. And Logan Save started on Friday, and he's been banged up, and then he got sick Friday night, so he had a little bit of the shoulder thing going on, and then he got ill, came back on Sunday, had 2 homers, which was great. So we've had to move our lineup around, which has been the story of the entire year. Um, but overall, I thought we played really well. It was the shortest trip that we've had all year as well because we flew down Thursday, but we left. I think our flight was at 3. It was a direct flight. That's really rare for the Mountaineers. And then we played Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we flew home on Sunday, which has been really rare for the Mountaineers to be able to catch a flight and a direct flight. So we got home at 1:30 or 2 a.m., but that beats the hell out of the 3, 4 a.m. with the connector flight in Atlanta. So it felt like a whirlwind. We went down, took care of business, won 3 games, and got home. So overall, successful weekend. And I had learned that we were in first place in the Big 12 after that series and had the highest winning percentage in the country after that series. And so overall, successful. Now it's time to get ready for Marshall on Tuesday.
Kevin, I'll start with you.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, looking at some of the metrics, obviously you've been high in traditional things like batting average and ERA all year, some of the newer ones like OPS and WHIP. What ones are you looking at the most that gives maybe the best snapshot of your team?
Not to be coach them, but I'm looking at wins. I'm looking at wins only, really. I think snapshot a team I'm a little bit less interested in. Obviously, if you don't give up a bunch of runs and you score a bunch of runs, you got a chance to win a bunch of games. And so I think that piece is really important. But I dive more into the individual, trying to piece together the best individuals to make an impact on the game. So we look at some advanced metrics and sabermetric stuff. We look at runs created per 9 on a offensive side. So you're trying to just figure out who gets on base, who impacts the game, who has big hits, who can steal bases. And then there's also some sort of feel, not science based to it, where you're trying to blend different skill sets in a lineup so you have a chance to impacting the game in different ways. From the pitching standpoint, you can get really into the weeds with a lot of different metrics, but it feels like at the end of the day, the guys that throw strikes consistently get opportunities. And if you get enough opportunities as a pitcher, you have a chance to perform at a high level. But you got to throw strikes, you got to limit base runners, and being able to have some swing and miss stuff to be able to either get a strikeout in a big moment or a ground ball in a big moment really plays. So whip is huge. And then some of those pitch metrics, they matter, but God, it always feels like when it's all said and done and you're making decisions in the moment, it always comes down to trust. And trust is built on consistency. And so the guys that are able to do it day in and day out in practice, in batting practice, handle their stuff off the field and in the game, they always end up either with the bat in their hands or the ball in their hands on the mound. And so it legitimately comes back to trust factor when you're making decisions of who gets the opportunities in the game.
Ryan, we'll go to you.
Coach, you mentioned guys coming in and out of the lineup, some important bats going in and out of the lineup and shaking up the lineup pretty much every day. But in doing so, you've scored 9 or more runs in 8 out of the last 10. What do you attribute that success at the plate to overall this year?
Extremely talented players, depth of roster, which creates competition and prevents complacency in training, and our coaches. So Jimmy Rasinger, Jed Jerko, Jacob Garcia do an incredible job staying connected with each and individual guy and pushing people to get better and providing accurate information for those individuals to get better. So our staff is special. Staff is unique and they're really in tune with players. It's one thing to have a lot of information, but if you can't convey it to young people, you can't relate. You can't be in the trenches with them. It doesn't matter. And so it's about adults that have skills with relationships, care about the kids, are extremely knowledgeable, and then demand excellence on an everyday basis. But the players are good and the competition's real, so you can't rest on your laurels at all. You have to bring it every day, and that's why you've seen 8 and 9 hole hitters carry our team on a regular basis. It's not a one-off kind of thing. Anybody can have a big day in that lineup. And then we've had injuries. We haven't been without our injuries so far. Logan, Sam White, Armani Guzman had a oblique this weekend swinging, and so wasn't able to play there on Sunday. We've had a few others, and whenever that has happened, we've been able to throw somebody in a situation and they perform great. It's you guys see it, right? Like you start thinking about the lineup and it's like, how in the world could you not have Guzman in there? Well, how in the world could you not have Gavin Kelly in there or Sam White or Logan Save or Grant Hussey, right? So they only allow us to put 9 dudes in there at a time. So that's really the reality. I believe that we're working with. I think we have a special group of offensive players.
Justin, we'll go to you.
Hey, Coach, you had mentioned the winning percentage there. Obviously also translates to your road games, highest winning percentage in road games, 18-1, I believe. I'm just wondering, obviously, West Virginia geographically isn't one of those schools that can play the first month at home, that kind of stuff. So that 18-1 road record, kind of tell me the story behind that. Do you have a secret sauce? And I imagine there's a great deal of pride in that.
There is just, I think the school and the state take a lot of pride in grit, and they take a lot of pride in having no excuses and showing up regardless of situation and battling through adversity. That's what the place is built on, whether it's weather related or public perception related or anything else. And so being able to go do hard things is what the program is built on, and we do take a lot of pride in that. No secret sauce. It's like anything. I don't think there's gurus. I don't think there's secret sauce. You show up every day, you work really hard, you try to get better, you focus on your team, and if you play good and you work hard, you got a chance at it. And things have lined up for us to be successful up to this point this year.
And then obviously tomorrow you guys go to Marshall. You guys seem to have, and this really kind of goes back to Coach Mazey's tenure as well. You guys really seem to have a good relationship with Marshall, playing them every year, home, road, neutral. I'm just kind of wondering, what is that relationship like with Marshall, and why don't other sports at WVU have the kind of relationship at Marshall that you guys do?
Been really good. And I hadn't really thought about that since you asked that question, but it's just not the case with other schools, even regional Power Four schools. Um, I would like to schedule 3 game sets with the biggest schools within 2 hours, 3 hours from here because midweeks are very difficult to find quality opponents because there's not a lot of Division I schools in driving distance here. And so if we had it my way, you would you would play those good schools in midweeks, and you would probably play a home neutral. You'd play home big league park. You'd play two at their place, one at your place. It would make scheduling a hell of a lot easier for me. It's a scramble for multiple years to be able to fill out a 56 game schedule. It's really, really difficult for us, especially needing to get oftentimes 4 game sets in the beginning of the year. And many Southern schools, they don't want to play 4 games because they can play a Tuesday game and get rested. We don't have that luxury. So if we could play the 3 game sets against the best schools in this area, I'll sign up for it every year for the rest of my career. And Marshall's always been willing to do that. I think I think it's a win-win. They're in a very good baseball conference. Now they have really good facility. They're going to be a quality opponent, and it's great for the fans. It's great for the state. And the reality in Marshall's standpoint, at least how I see it, if I was in their shoes, they have nothing to lose because West Virginia is going to be favored in those contests, whether regardless of sport most of the time. And so they should go play great competition at the mid-major level. You play the best competition you possibly can. Your RPI will probably go up whether you win or lose the game. And normally those mid-major schools, they need to win their conference tournaments to get into the NCAA tournament anyways. And so it helps prepare their team by playing good competition. Um, they're in a good situation regardless. And so I think the relationship's been great. I always really like playing those guys just because it's great energy and they're coming after us. They beat us last year at their place and had a light show for 30 minutes as we walked to the bus. And so I just think in general, that's what college baseball is about, right? Like let's go sell out stadiums. Let's set records for attendance. Let's get as many Country Roads Trust loggers in that place and go play high end baseball. And so I'm all for it. They've been good and they've had 2 different coaches there and they've wanted to set up these 3 game series every year.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Eric, we'll go to you. Eric, can't hear you.
Gotta unmute yourself.
Mike, we'll just go to you then.
Okay. Okay, we good? All right, coach. So despite the success and the winning, there have been some major polls, D1 in particular, that was hesitant to rank the Mountaineers up until this week. I do see that you're now sliding in there at number 24. And the owner of the site actually said that you and him had a conversation over the weekend where he felt he needed to be open with you and why you were not getting ranked. So what are your thoughts now that you have been ranked, and how did that conversation go? Did you learn any clarity? What are your feelings now after speaking to the owner of that site and that now you are ranked?
We didn't. Yeah, nothing was ever said about rankings or
Okay.
anything like that. So he just asked about the team and how guys were doing, and wanted to hear my opinions on Gavin Kelly and Chase Swain, and wanted to know how it had been being first year head coach and taking over the program. And those guys
Okay.
work really hard. Those reporters, there's a million sites out there. So um, whether it's D1 baseball or prep baseball report or perfect game or whatever, they have they have their job to do, and that's right about college baseball. I got my job to do. And so I was just thankful that people that cover the sport wanted to come out and learn about the Mountaineers and hear what we got going on. And so um, I didn't know um, I don't keep up too closely with any of that is the reality of it, but I do know that that particular site does a great job covering our sport. And so whether we feel disrespected or not, that's not really of my concern.
Okay, and then just a quick follow-up because you're talking about the schedule with Marshall. There has been some conversation on the hesitation for some of those sites to rank you prior to this week was the strength of schedule early in the season. Obviously, that was talked about, weather-wise. There's different reasons why that may be the case. Does it give you any thought on trying to change that schedule, trying to accommodate what they are saying publicly to maybe make it tougher at the beginning of the season, even though you can't really play the home games? Or are you comfortable with the way things are?
Um, Strength of schedule is based on how other schools perform. So
Right.
unless we know how they will perform, it's not feasible um, to be able to schedule. So the reality is that this particular schedule was made 2 or 3 years ago, and it has been the same formula that me and Mays has basically scheduled for the last 10 years. And so schools are good if they beat schools like West Virginia. So the ironic part is like if those schools would have beat us more, we would have a better strength of schedule. And so like if you win all your games, the teams that you play aren't as good. And so I wouldn't change anything, obviously, up until this point. You can't ask for anything better right now. We got a ton of work ahead of us, and we have to get better, and we will play even better teams moving forward. But the philosophy of scheduling has been the same for 10 years.
Thank you.
So this is the question from Eric. His mic wasn't working, so I'm just gonna ask you. Are you surprised at all by the 30-4 start given the rebuild of the pitching staff, and then just how you just go back to the backstory of finding Griffin Kern and how he's made such a good adjustment to this level?
Yeah, that's been unproven, right? We lost 75% of our innings. Um, Lots of new guys. We're still working through things. You saw on Sunday, like we have some really great arms and big time players. And late in that game on Sunday, we gave some people some opportunities, and we gave up some runs late because of walks. So we're not where we need to be. Um, but I am proud of what we've done on the pitching side, because if you go to a super regional and have the best year in program history and lose 75% of your pitching, West Virginia has not traditionally been a program that has bounced back year to year and continued to build and gotten better. And so we haven't done that yet, but we have the opportunity to do that. So certainly proud of that. Griffin Kern is from Quincy, Illinois, and he went to Quincy, which is a small school, Division III school, and performed at a high level, and we started recruiting him during the Big 12 tournament. We were in the middle of playing games at the Big 12 tournament, and I was on FaceTime phone calls with Griffin Kern and his family, and he wanted to go to a winter. He wanted to go to somewhere that had great resources and was being recruited by a lot of different schools. If you're left-handed and throw strikes, you have a chance of being recruited to some different schools. Not elite level velocity, but we took a shot on him quickly before he went to play in the Cape Cod League. And he had a little bit of draft interest, but probably didn't throw hard enough consistently to raise too many professional um, scout flags at the time. And we committed him. He ended up going to the Cape Cod League and dominated, which is some of the best hitters in the country and the best prospects in the country. And at that point, I felt like we had made a really, really good decision. And he was a guy that when you're watching video, you're watching like terrible granular video of bad D3 hitters through a chain link fence. So you're like hoping that you're getting the right read on his curveball and the changeup and what he's doing inside the zone and how he's competing. But he really sold me with his professionalism on the phone, his desire to get better. He had no resources whatsoever, and he was going to a private strength coach, a chiropractor. He was getting needling after starts. So he was like taking his craft extremely seriously at the lower level. And I was like, this guy's going to thrive when he has full-time strength coaches and athletic trainers and biomechanic data and analytics. Like this guy's going to be in heaven. He's going to get better. So the reality is that he was a great pitcher that's gotten better inside of our program, and he keeps getting better every week, which has been really fun to see. And Bassinger's another great one. Tarleton State. I think he's second in our team in innings and has been incredible. He's throwing twice a week and sometimes 3, 4, 5 innings twice a week. And then Jack Cartsonis, who got the start on Sunday, he's a transfer from Kent State that had surgery this summer that we committed a guy that is going to have multiple procedures on his arm. So pretty big risk. Not usually the formula of signing great players, people that are going to have their arms operated on. And so for him to do what he did and through 7 innings and the longest outing of anybody all year was pretty remarkable.
Bob, Herzl, if you want to go.
Yeah, sure do. Steve, you touched on this earlier, and I was going to ask about the idea of my theory as I've studied is most games are lost, not won. And you mentioned, despite all the changes, despite all the changes in the lineup and injuries and the likes, you haven't made blunders all year. I mean, you haven't thrown to the wrong base. You haven't had bad base running mistakes. You've made routine plays. You've got the guys over, got them in. How have you gotten across the point that how important that is?
Yeah, you're exactly right. You watch enough college baseball, and a lot of games are lost. Um, Games are screwed up. Bunts are thrown down the right field line. Um, Outfielders run past ground balls. Double plays aren't turned, and a lot of times in the moment, it's one small mistake, but it's the additional out given to the offense that leads to the 3-run homer. It's the same thing that happened with Kyle West in the first inning. Skylar King hits a ball off the pitcher's glove, and then Kyle West hits a ball 200 miles an hour off the light pole in left center. That stuff happens all the time. And so we make a huge emphasis on that, Bob, during the fall, but it's not secret sauce stuff. It's attention to detail and holding players accountable for playing quality baseball all the time. And it starts when you play catch when you're warming up for the game. You can play sloppy catch, you can play quality catch. We have a whistle during the fall that if a ball hits the turf when it's not supposed to hit the turf, we blow the whistle and everybody yells ball on turf. And then we pull the video from when the ball hit the turf and we watch it the next day. And everybody sits there and watches when the ball was thrown to the pitcher. And it doesn't matter. The play could be over. You record an out at first base, and the first baseman catches the ball, and his job is to throw it back to the pitcher. He short hops the pitcher, or the pitcher drops the ball. That's a ball on turf. Or the catcher short hops it, throwing back to the pitcher. Or the catcher's supposed to catch a ball when it's thrown to him if it's a strike and it hits his glove and drops. That's a whistle, ball on turf. But there's a million different things like that in the fall that you either concentrate on or you don't. And if you don't, you're going to have a lot more of it happen in the spring. And so it's hard. It's hard to do that consistently all the time in the fall, but that's what good staffs try to do. You push yourself as a staff to not look past little things that get you beat. Because, like you said, Bob, the game is about most of the time not beating yourself.
Okay, one more people to go through. Greg, Care, if you want to go.
Steve, what has allowed this team to handle success so well?
Has to be the makeup of the kids. not falling in love with themselves, not being satisfied, having a greater goal in mind. If you're satisfied with winning series or being the road game winning percentage leader or the Big 12 pitcher of the week, or you actually care about what other people think, like polls or players of the day. If you actually care about that stuff, you get really satisfied and you're complacent and you're like, hey, well, we have the best winning percentage, blah, 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 or we beat this team or whatever accolade, false accolade you want. But there's one goal and in this thing. And so at this point, it appears that this particular group of players has a larger goal in mind that they're trying to accomplish. And that can only happen by believing that you're able to do it and setting a precedent for what winning looks like. And some of these kids have been part of that, right? In the super regional team, you kind of start to get a taste of winning and what this looks like and what's required in order to actually win. And so I think that's probably the best I can do there. I don't necessarily know that answer, but it appears that they have not been satisfied because there hasn't been a lot of let down performances, which happens with good teams that win.
Brendan, we'll go to you.
Coach, we talked a lot of this press conference about your success, winning your last 10 matchups, improving your overall record to 30-4. You also mentioned being at top of the Big 12 conference and having the highest winning percentage in the nation. You attributed this success to the talent of your players as well as your coaching staff. So what do you do to carry this momentum forward? Is it more of the same formula, or are there adjustments necessary to keep this momentum? How do you go about this from this point?
I don't think you ever change whether you're winning or you're getting your ass kicked. I think you have to have some process in mind that you believe is the right way to do things and then try to execute that on a daily basis is all you can do. I think you have to play to win always, and I remind myself of that. Every player has to play to win the game. Every coach has to coach to win the game. You have to stay aggressive. We're not strictly winning games because we're good and we're more talented. You probably win more games because you prepare better and you're fearless and you play with an aggression and you have a chip on your shoulder and all the things, right? And so those are the things that have probably allowed us to win up to this point. And then there's also things that are completely out of your control, how the other team plays, if they're in a good spot. And so it's a game that if we really understood the formula, everybody would be doing it. And so I think just sticking to what we do and making sure guys stay hungry and don't get complacent, and be humble and thankful for what happened. We don't have a group of guys that fall in love with themselves. And so my message to them more than anything, which you may think it would be, maybe the opposite, is like at some points you do have to enjoy some of the winning along the way. If you don't find joy in your daily life because these kids work their tails off and they train and they get home at 2 a.m. and then they're in the weight room today at 10 a.m. and then they go to class for 4 hours and then they hit, right? So it's a lot. And so they do need to reflect maybe once a week saying, hey, we played a hell of a series and we won, and winning's hard as hell. And we went into Texas into a school with one of the largest cities in America with some of the best baseball tradition in the country from an amateur side, with one of the best recruiting hotbeds in the nation. And we went and took 3 from there. That's something that they should build confidence and should be proud of. Doesn't mean that they think it's going to happen out of showing up to the yard, but I do think that's an important piece of this.
And final question, Mike Casazzo, will go to you.
Hey Steve, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Just if I can ask you a couple on Cartsonis and your pitching staff. He's had starting experience before, and you've used him a bunch of times this year. Were you just looking for a Sunday arm or another weekend arm, or had you had something in mind with him long term and kind of built toward this?
We had thought that we we wanted to get Estridge back in the bullpen and felt a little bit handcuffed because we didn't know that we had a proven option up to this point. Estridge has just been so good in the bullpen and had given up some more hits and runs than he was accustomed to in the starting role. He's a strike thrower and he's a competitor, which we love with Estridge. It's just like I have visions of, Stridge came in against that super regional at UNC and went 2.1 innings, 6 strikeouts, was dominating some of the best competition in the country. Really loved the moment, was not affected by the moment. And so in my gut, I wanted to get him back into the bullpen and just didn't know how to for about 2 weeks. Didn't think we had anywhere to go to. Cartsonis, multiple surgeries in the summer, rehabbed all fall, started throwing in probably like October, November, getting touches, like just throwing, not even pitching, and then progressed to the mound and then got like some sim games and started going a little bit in the early spring. And so arm health was as big as anything for Jack. And he would come out throwing 95 one outing and then 91 another outing. It still looked like his arm was getting healthy and he was kind of bouncing back. Um, and then 2 weeks ago at BYU, he went 2.1 innings of quality relief work. And I was like, that was cool. 2 innings. Hell yeah. But he completely ran out of gas. Velo dropped, demeanor, arm speed lessened. And then last week against Utah, he went 3.1 innings. And I'm sitting there just going like, this guy's going a little bit. He got his pitch count up to 60 pitches. He held his velocity for 3.1 innings. He ran out of gas, but it spiked a little bit late there. But I was like, this guy's hungry. He's team oriented, stud kid. He's like 32 years old and is not afraid of anything. That guy gives me a hard time all the time. Like he's just extremely confident. And after going the 3.1 innings and he looked great, I was like, hey, maybe he's ready, right? He went 1 inning, 1 innings here, there, 2.1, 3.1. Let's give him the ball and see if he's ready. He went 60 pitches, maybe go 70. And he ended up going, I think, 98 pitches through 7 innings, 0 runs, throwing a lot of sinkers, getting ground balls, quick contact. So that allowed us to put Estridge in the game, and Estridge won us the Saturday game in the relief role. So it couldn't have worked out better. And I think going back to the question just about trying to continue to play good baseball, you can't be afraid, right? You have to play to win, coach to win. I guess that's what I meant by that is just when things are going great, it's very easy to be like, what the hell, you're changing your Sunday starter? Like you've won every game with the Sunday starter. Well, we watch baseball for a living, and there's certain things that you just know maybe quite aren't right long term, and so you try to make changes. But if Estridge blows the game on Saturday and Cartsonis goes, point 0.1 innings and gets shelled, it was a terrible decision. But you just try to do what's right to set up the kids to be successful, and it worked out this time. Doesn't always, but try to put players in situations that allow for them to be successful.
All right, that would lead me to this then. You probably have an idea of what your postseason arms look like as far as like who's starting, what order, when you get your bullpen guys in. Man, it's got to be hard to get there. How much experimentation, how much thinking, and maybe even saying no to some ideas is there just to get it situated? And ideally, how does that look for you at the end? Not names, but like just like construction of a pitching staff there.
Yeah. Well, the Cartsonis thing came because I was basically talking to all the staff and thinking through every staff. And we have a director of pitching was with the Red Sox for 4 years and the A's for 4 years. He's a 8-time professional scout. He evaluated pitching for a living. Justin Oney, he's our pitching coach. He's incredible. And I was like, I want to get Estridge in the bullpen. I think we're going to win games with Estridge late in the bullpen. And I was like going through different names, and I'm like, just doesn't feel right. And Coach Garcia, who's our recruiting coordinator, he's been with me the longest out of anybody here on staff. He's the right-hand man. He's recruiting 15-year-olds in the Atlanta Sun for 10 hours a day. He's like, why don't you start Cartsonis? I was like, that sounds like a pretty good idea. And so you start digging, right? You dig on it. And what does every outing look like? And what has his pitch count been? And why has he ran out of gas? And you start trying to think, well, maybe it's the health and the surgery, and he's bouncing back. And then you're measuring, we have arm scores based on a device that players put on their wrist and shoulder that literally measures the strength of their shoulder. And so you go look at diagrams from the beginning of the spring to now and how his arm strength has actually increased over the course of that, and his internal and external rotation. And so you dive into like some of the medical side and the physical side. And after he said that, I like couldn't get off of it. I'm like, phew, I like that, man. And so I just kind of you keep churning on it, but there's not an answer. And I don't know. Who knows how people will evolve. Like there's kids like David Hagan who started against Marshall last time that went 4 innings clean. Max Stifler, 6'7", throws 95 with an 87-mile-an-hour slider and has been a whirl beater. And then there's days where he can't get an out. But he's a freshman, so it's the inconsistency of the young guy. So, and Bryant Yoke, right? He threw this weekend and wasn't successful late on Sunday. Didn't get an out, but he's up to 97. He's also the kid that struck out Schubert, the best hitter, the preseason all world Oklahoma State hitter with bases loaded that allowed us to win that game against Oklahoma State. So you see these flashes of brilliance, and so you're banking and you're hoping on the come up for these guys. But you also can't lose games by putting them in the wrong situations. And so I don't know that answer, but you would hope that there's still a few X factors left in this equation, that a Stifler, a Hoff, a Hagan, a Bryant Yoke, Robbie Porco, who hasn't been in there, that throws 97, a Joe Fredericks. There's like these players that are on the wings that are working, and they're just young dudes. And so young dudes figure stuff out. There's so much factors. There's confidence, there's physical, there's mechanics. And so, but it appears, not to get long-winded, because I do that a lot, right? Like Kern and Cartsonis just gave us the two best starts, or they've clearly had the 2, 3, 4 best starts of the year. Van Kimpen's been in there as well. But going 7 innings of no-run baseball with 2 hits and a walk, that was different. So it was like, man, and he was throwing 95 in the 6th inning. So you hold velo, you throw strikes, you're old, you're mature. You can look a coach straight in the eyes and tell him how you're feeling and what pitch you want to throw. Those are all things that give you confidence in it. And so, yeah, as it evolves, but you're right, it's just constant. You're just constantly playing puzzle pieces, and you're taking notes, and you're working on your phone, and you have to get away from it a little bit to try to get thoughts together and all that.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right, guys. Thank you.